okay, take whatever's in your brain, get it onto a page, and that way we can actually talk about how we can clarify that messaging and clarify what it is that you're teaching and coaching so that one, your prospective lead, the person who's moving through that often, that challenge, is actually getting a clear, identifiable, and easy to understand direction. As opposed to, yes, there's all this great information that you can talk about and share, but if it doesn't land and if that person walks away feeling like, okay, well, that was really great, but I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do, then the communication hasn't happened.
Welcome to the Her First podcast, a platform to help online business owners, coaches, and creators gain the confidence needed to build a successful business while creating a sustainable lifestyle balance. We are here to help you prioritize yourself in business and life. I'm Joanna Newton.
And I'm Michelle Puolani. In this podcast, along with the Her First Collective, you can engage in the challenges women face in business, ways to increase your impact or income online, and how to make it all work while launching, scaling, or maintaining. Spoiler, it's not about perfectionism, hustling, or a copy-paste methodology. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Her First podcast. I'm Michelle Puolani. Today, I'm interviewing solo, so Joanna will be back soon. And today we have Manouk Vink. She's a fitness and nutrition coach in the online and digital space. We met through the Business by Design community in person, and I was immediately drawn to her magnetic energy. We had so much fun on the night where you're like mixing and mingling, and we started chatting about health and healthy habits and everything that's wrong in the health industry. And we just really connected on a very deep level. And so we've stayed in touch since then. And I'm really excited to have her on the podcast today because we're going to talk all about her experience, her background, her expertise when it comes to fitness, nutrition, and health, but also how she has been successful at staying on track to launch her digital membership in a repetitive and consistent way that you can learn from as well. So Manouk, welcome to the show today. So excited to have you.
Hi, Michelle. That's such a sweet intro. I love it. I love that we've stayed in touch.
Same here. And it's one of those things where I feel like the online and digital space can feel really isolating and can make you feel a little alone. And yes, you have your Facebook groups and you have the masterminds that you get into and you have all of those things. But sometimes those people, one, you either just don't click with, which happens, right? Everybody's different. But also, everyone feels so far away and you don't feel like you get this connection. And so I feel like when you and I got to connect in person, it was a great opportunity to just form a friendship, form, this potential for business and opportunity as we move forward together and kind of just watch our businesses grow and learn from each other and help support each other, texting each other, and just kind of keeping each other accountable. So thank you. Now that I'm reflecting on it, thank you so much for being here for that.
I feel the same way. I think it's so cool. Like when I first started out, you really do it alone. And the fact that I get to collaborate with you and, well, with you mainly, I've been in touch, and then some other people that I've met, but it's really cool because it does feel like you can work on your business together and that you're not so alone and that you can bounce ideas off of each other and relate on subjects because it's not easy being an entrepreneur. But yeah, I love it. And I feel like even though we're so far away, we're really close. And yeah, I love it. It's really great. And I'm so grateful that we got to meet each other at that event. I never thought that this would come out of it, but there you go.
And here we are. And yeah, being so far away. So I'm based in America, in California. And can you just start with, one, where you are in the world, and two, a little bit about your background and what you do?
Okay, so I am in Serbia at the minute, funnily enough. I am not from Serbia. I am actually from the Netherlands. But the reason I have quite an American accent is because I've grown up abroad. So I would say, more international than anything else. And I am in the fitness space. So I first started out as a personal trainer, no nutritionist actually, and then into personal training. And then I realized I wanted to bring everything online because I wanted my business to, first of all, be more scalable, and I wanted to be able to reach more people on a wider scale as well. And that's when I decided that I wanted to become more of an online trainer, for several reasons. And I wanted to share my experience and what I've experienced in the fitness industry, and also to get like people realizing the truth around fitness and nutrition, because there's so much fake news, fitness influencers that actually have no knowledge of training and nutrition, trying to get more views with the things that they say, with the things that they do, but they're not always truthful or correct. And my mission is really to bring truth into that so that, we don't get stuck in this cycle of trying one workout or one diet after the next, feeling deflated and exhausted, and probably also that affecting your body and your health in the long run because you're tackling it in an incorrect way and in a very unhealthy way. So I think that's my main driving force to do what I do.
That's the one thing that you and I just really connected on, is that there's so much misinformation, especially in the health space. And when it comes to fitness and when it comes to nutrition, you're right. There's so much that's just ingrained in marketing and getting people to buy things. So when it comes to supplementation or weight loss shakes or diet programs or all of the multi-billion-dollar industry trends that we see, it's really not geared toward the health of the individual. It's not geared toward the longevity of that individual. And that's where I come from a health coaching perspective as well, is really longevity. So what's the long-term implications of my choices, and how am I implementing healthy habits on a daily, consistent, and regular basis so that I see not just weight loss, but I see the physical fitness, the emotional fitness, the mental fitness of what it is that I'm doing over time. So thank you for being a light in this community when it comes to health and when it comes to fitness. I know that a lot of your clients have felt like, thank goodness for your honesty, your integrity, and what it is that you bring to this industry. So if you could give me just a little bit more information about how you specifically help clients that might be a little bit different than what they've experienced before when it comes to health, when it comes to fitness, and how you do that currently with clients, with students in your membership.
Okay, so yeah, exactly, Michelle. And that's something that really, it really, really, really gets to me, because there's so much misinformation out there. And when you think about when we were teenagers, it was already confusing. And I think about that, like even back when I was in my teens, I was searching for the best method. And at the time, it was the Victoria's Secret body that I always say this wrong, Victoria's Secret model body that I was always going for. And I was looking in magazines at the time. So that's where I was getting my information. And now you can imagine with social media, there is everybody and anybody can give nutritional or fitness advice online. And unfortunately, I have actually seen several of these people that are spreading misinformation and incorrect information, and even have heard of people with millions of followers who have gotten cosmetic surgery or have taken certain supplements and then are promoting their workout programs and their diets and or weight loss shakes as if that's how they've achieved their results. And it really hurts me that women would do that to other women, or people would do that to other people. I've helped men and women in the fitness space, but at the moment I'm targeting more towards women because I feel like we really struggle. I think men do too, but I feel like I can speak to women more, and especially because there is so much misinformation out there. And I think and we both know how difficult it is. As a woman, we are constantly looking to improve our body, look better, stay younger, do everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it feels like an uphill battle and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. And yeah, it can become a very vicious and exhausting cycle. And I've been in that cycle, or used to be in that cycle, back from my teens into my 20s. And that's what really drove me to becoming a personal trainer and a nutritionist, because I myself competed in a bodybuilding competition. And through this journey, I transformed my body to the extremes. And I did a very extreme diet where I basically only ate fish and vegetables. And I trained 6-7 times a week, 2 hours a session. And yes, I was ripped and I was lean by the end of it. But like you said, longevity is such a big part of it. And there was no aftercare. So I did this extreme diet and I looked ripped. And then the fear kicked in on how am I going to sustain this? And I quickly realized, first of all, my hormones were no longer working. My emotions were, I was kind of numb because I was like on such little fuel that my body didn't work properly anymore. And I was really fueled by fear as well, that if I ate anything out of my diet or I didn't stick to my workout, I would lose all my progress. And I quickly realized after trying to get back into a bit of a normal diet and workout routine that the way I was living was not sustainable and also had a massive impact on my body and on my hormones. And that's when I realized that a lot of women that are struggling with this are a lot of the time following crash diets and extreme workouts to reach their goals, not realizing how this is impacting their bodies in the long run. And especially that yo-yo effect of gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight is impacting their hormones and their metabolism. And it's not necessary because, first of all, it's not getting you where you want to be. Second of all, it's impacting your health and your hormones. And third of all, you're not happy living in fear of food and in fear of not sticking to your training regime and going from an all or nothing, working from an all or nothing mentality. So I started thinking and working as a personal trainer, I already felt that I wanted to coach more. I wanted to help more. I don't just want to stand next to my client and tell them, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. I mean, most people can do that. They know how to do that. And I already realized when I was working with my clients, I wanted to give them more information because my aim is, and I think any good trainer's aim should be, is to give the tools to their clients so that they can eventually coach themselves and they no longer need to refer to another trainer, another diet, more information because they all have that information in themselves. Because once you have that information yourself, that's when you're empowered through fitness. That's when you're in control of your result and in control of your body and how it's going to be shaped, how you're going to transform your physique. And so you don't live in fear of food anymore, and you don't live in fear of missing a workout or in fear of not doing it correctly because you know that you have the tools to do it. So what I'm describing now is basically what I do in my membership. So in my membership, yes, you get workout routines from me to start with, but that's just, and again, anybody can do that. And it could be, you can find workout routines anywhere. But I actually give you the handbook and the coaching and the tool so that you have all the information at your fingertips so that you know how to adjust your workout routine depending on your goal, what you need to be looking out for when you're doing your workouts, depending on your goals and on your physical limitations or your physique, how you should be training and what exercises you should be doing. And also we tackle nutrition. So I give you basically all the information that you need so that you can adjust your nutrition depending on your goals, so that you're no longer a prisoner of a diet or of restrictions, but that you know how you should be eating depending on your goals, and you don't have to cut out the things that you love. And the same goes for rest and recovery. And of course, there's a lot of mindset coaching that comes with that, because I say to many of my clients, if I could program you like a robot, then you would be able to reach your goals within a split second, because nothing up here would get in the way of that. If I could program you to train in a certain way and eat in a certain way, then yes, you could reach the physique that you're so eagerly working towards. But it's other things that get in the way of you getting there. And that is a big part of people struggling to reach their goal. And of course, also like knowing that you need to be consistent and work on a structured workout routine depending on your specific goals.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the main thing that I bring. And like you said, my clients, they are so shocked with everything that they start understanding when they enter the membership, that they're like, wow, I've never heard, like no coach has ever told me this. There's always this misconception that you should be sweating more, working more, restricting yourself more, basically like whipping yourself on the back until you reach your goals. And it's not necessary. It's actually going to give you like opposite results.
It's going to hurt you in the long run. Well, it sounds like a very comprehensive program, and I like what you're doing in terms of empowering and what you mentioned in terms of women and just thinking about, those that we typically work with or those in our audience in terms of women in business, women coaches, creators, people who are showing up. It's like, even if you're not technically on your own fitness and health journey right now, you've probably had something in the past that has been a part of this diet industry, this fitness industry, this culture, because there's so much pressure on women to show up and to perform, to physically look a certain way, to emotionally be a certain way, to mentally be at a certain level. And there's all this expectation and pressure around health and around fitness that it permeates almost every single part of our lives. And then, as we know, it's a trickle effect into our business, into our work, into our relationships, and how we show up in the world. So I think it's important that each of us as individuals does find that empowerment, that is able to make the decisions, do the things, and implement what it is that they're working on in terms of change, in terms of growth, in terms of transformation, and doing it in a healthy, safe, and sustainable way. So I think that is incredibly important. And so one of the things that I feel like comes up for a lot of women, people, when it comes to health and work and life, what do you typically teach or coach or see with your students and members where they might be struggling or having a challenge with being able to balance it? Oftentimes if people are going to put their head down, they're quote unquote hustling, they're getting in behind the computer, they're doing the work, they're showing up, but maybe they compromise and they don't get to their workout routine or they don't do that exercise class that they had planned. Or maybe they're eating at their desk or they're compromising in some way. How do you typically help or support clients or members moving through that experience when it feels like, I just don't have the time and I'm just usually always sacrificing? I know these things in my health are important, but I can't get to that.
Okay, so yes, this is a very, very common thing. And actually, we were speaking about this recently in the membership where there's two aspects to this. Yes, we all have busy lives and work gets in the way. Sometimes life gets in the way. That's such a big part of what happens. Like recently, one of my members had, a personal matter and that really threw her off. And that can happen. So there's two things that I do here because there's one person that comes to mind as well when I think of this, and she was really struggling as well, but that came from a different place. We often are so quick to give our time away to anybody apart from ourselves. It is so easy to show up for you, Michelle, when we have a call, right? Or for you to show up for a trainer. So you're not showing up for yourself, but you made an appointment with a trainer. So you're showing up for that trainer, not for yourself. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. And because when you go to a personal training session or you follow a class, it's because you booked that appointment with someone else that you go. Or when you think of a work meeting, it's because your work is more important than you that you go in your head, right? And we need to start prioritizing ourselves in that, because when we do better, everything around us does better. And for some reason, us humans, us women, we find it extremely difficult to put ourselves at the top of that list and to make more time for ourselves. And there's another part of it that really, really, hits a lot of people, a lot of women, is that we sometimes just somewhere deep down don't believe that we're worth it or capable of it. And it's like this fear of letting yourself down and not being able to commit. So if you don't commit, then that means that you don't have to stick to it. So you don't have to keep sticking to your workout routine, so you can't let yourself down. And literally, I spoke to one of my members and she said to me that she had an epiphany one moment where she said, I've been consistently going to the gym 3 times a week for about a year, which means now I can say that I go to the gym regularly. And the moment she said those words, she stopped going to the gym or she started tapering off. And that's because she realized she had to commit to this persona. And it was scary that she had to commit to that persona because that means you have to keep that bar high. But that's only you telling yourself to do that. And it's so crazy how we self-sabotage ourselves in those scenarios. And it's really about, first of all, realizing that you are worth it. And second of all, realizing that, we need to start making more time for ourselves, because when you start working on yourself and taking care of yourself, everything else starts falling into place. And then the second thing that comes to mind when you say this is that, yes, it gets busy and it gets overwhelming. I completely understand. And sometimes it's very difficult to balance and juggle everything. And in those moments, we need to try and take away the overwhelm. And we need to prioritize what is more important at the moment. So if you're going through a rough period or things are tough at the moment and extremely busy, then take it in small steps. So tackle one thing a week or one thing every 2 weeks. So tackle your nutrition, make one small change. For example, increase your protein intake in week 1. And then in week 2, once you feel like you've successfully done that in week 1, start seeing if you can increase your step count. And then in week 3, if that went successfully, start adding in 1 training session a week. And then before you know it, in a couple of weeks, you'll have transformed your lifestyle and it wasn't as much of an overwhelm as it was in the beginning. Because when we want to start transforming our bodies and our lives, and I'm guilty of this as well in my business and in everything else, is that I want to hit the ground running and I want to be successful and do everything immediately. And it's just not possible. So it's so much better to just take it one step at a time and start working through it like that. And then before you know it, because if we fail at one thing, we end up punishing ourselves for failing, and then you fall off the bandwagon. So give yourself some time and space and tackle one small thing at a time. And then when you can give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself an applause, it's so much easier to then move on to the next step without it feeling like you need to change up your entire life.
We all do this. I think it's such whether it's a business owner, entrepreneurship, like the type of person that is maybe high achieving and focused on reaching goals and improving their lives and transforming and doing all these things, whether it's just us as a segment of the population or whether everyone does this, I don't actually know. But for most of us, it's like, I want everything yesterday. Like I want it all done. I want it the exact vision that I want my company to be at in 10 years from now. I want that right now. Like, just make it happen. And I understand that sense of urgency and I understand that lack of patience in so many ways. But what we are doing is we're burning ourselves out. And that's what happens when we take on too much at once. And so this happens in business. This happens in health and fitness. There's so many parallels between fitness, health, and business, is that when we try to take on too much at once, it consumes us. We are going in all these different directions. We think we have this energy. And again, especially as women, we are on a totally different cycle. And this is something that it took me too long to realize in my life, is that I cannot wake up and every single day have the same level of energy that I had yesterday and the day before and the day before. Like, I just don't. And I don't have the same level of focus and I don't have the same intensity. And so it's almost impossible to sustain that high level of intensity when you feel like I'm going to get up and I'm going to work through and I'm going to put in that 8, 10, 12-hour day and I'm just going to get it done and I'm going to make it happen and I'm going to grow, 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 grow. And it really is almost that masculine energy that we just don't have. There needs to be some sort of balance with the feminine to pull back and to rest and to receive and open yourself up to the opportunity and know that things are coming to you, but probably not in the time frame that you want. So that's something I'm consistently working on as well. I think it does take intention, it takes focus, it takes reflection for us to be able to say, okay, I know I want all these things. I have this beautiful vision for what I'm working toward and where I want to be and where I'm going and that I'm going to get there. But also, it's okay on a consistent daily and regular basis to implement in smaller pieces. And that's exactly what that healthy habit formation is. It's exactly what you're talking about when it comes to fitness and nutrition. But that applies to other areas of our life, especially professional, especially career, especially business, is being able to take it one thing at a time, implement, have it get, a little bit of traction and consistency, and then add on. Because I just go big, I create all the content, I batch, I film all the stuff, and then I don't follow through with video production and everything else. So there's all these different ways in which we can apply this lesson, and I think it's an important one that we're still consistently learning on a regular basis. So as we start to talk a little bit about business, I'd love to shift more to understanding the launch model that you have. So you have a membership currently, and you were working with clients in that capacity. So I know that I've seen a little bit behind the scenes, but for our listeners, can you kind of explain the launch model that you're following in order to get people into your membership?
What you're saying as well, Michelle, totally true, 100%. Like, I may have tackled it in my fitness, even if it sometimes comes with ups and downs, but definitely in business, that's why I can relate with my clients still, even though I'm not living it in fitness every single day. I can totally get that mentality because it comes in all forms, right? Because we are so hard on ourselves and we always want to achieve the best that we can. And also this lack of feeling worthy of whatever we want to achieve. It's also something that we as women tend to have. I think most of us can identify with that in some way or another, giving our energy away to others and not to ourselves. Speaking of my my launch model, yes, Michelle, you helped me a lot with inspiration for that. So thank you so much. So she has really helped me hone in on the idea and get clearer and help me transform what I wanted to create. So this is a free challenge that I give. And I do it live, but I also have it running in a form of like an evergreen model. So it's an automated way, but I do it live every few months. And what it is a 5-day challenge that tackles 5 things that you can start implementing to start transforming your body into your dream body. So basically, we have 5 coaching sessions and we tackle one topic a day. And I give you an assignment to work on that topic or to start committing to that topic so that you can start transforming your habit and your lifestyle so that you can start transforming your body. And you can just binge them all in one go or do it in a few days. And you can fill out the assignments and you get a home or a gym workout depending on what you have access to. And you can start implementing these things immediately and start already clicking in certain nutrition fitness aspects. Yeah, that's basically what the launch model is. And this is a completely free challenge, which then leads into my membership if you want to continue the journey.
Beautiful. And we'll link up that evergreen opt-in down in the show notes so you can check it out. If you're working on your fitness, you're working on your nutrition, Manouk gives away so much in the challenge itself. So you will already start to see some changes. You will already start to see some things happening in your understanding of how you've maybe been approaching health and fitness in the past that haven't quite worked for you. So as people are going through this challenge, they're engaging with you, they're getting to connect with you, they're filling out the workbook. And ultimately, what you do is you will sell them into the membership at the end because it's the next best logical step of getting to work with you and actually getting to apply some of these things in a longer term basis. Because of course, as we know, 5 days is great and little changes are great. But if we're actually looking at changing our fitness, changing our relationship with nutrition, changing our life as a whole, it's going to take a little bit more time than that. So I love the free model that you're doing. I love the way in which you're approaching it. And we have worked together on clarifying some pieces. So this is a thing that I want to point out as you're listening, is that oftentimes we try something, we feel like it doesn't work, and then we pivot right away because we think there's something wrong with the strategy, there's something wrong with us, there's something wrong with the product or program. So whatever it is that you're launching, if you're putting it out there into the world and you have that like, okay, quote unquote flop, I didn't get anybody to enroll, I had a bunch of people opt in, but no one purchased, not as many people purchased as I was hoping for, all of those feelings and sensations of internalizing the quote unquote failure of your experience and launching. And one thing that I think is so beautiful that Manouk has been able to do is put some of that to the side and continue to iterate on this same process. So her and I have worked together and I've been giving her a little bit of coaching and a little bit of guidance to be able to clarify the challenge messaging, to be able to focus in on different topics that actually appeals to the person who's coming in, gives them those wins, but also helps them realize the next logical step. And so as a coach, as a creator, as a business owner, what I'm encouraging you to do is to not just focus so much on what went wrong so that you shift, pivot, tweak, change, and just go in a totally different direction, but that you take what you've done, you look at the metrics, you analyze what is working, what's not working, and then you take neutral action. And so what Manouk and I have been able to do, and what she's been able to do so beautifully because she executes like a genius, like I'm so envious of her ability to just get in and make it happen, is being able to look at it objectively and say, okay, we're going to improve the page here. We're going to change this copy. Okay, I'm going to adjust our challenge topics. Okay, we're going to add this language into the emails. Not just the challenge didn't work, and so now I'm going to go create a completely and totally separate brand new webinar. Okay, the webinar didn't work, and so now I'm going to move to whatever that next launch opportunity is, whether it's, a quiz or anything else. And so, Manouk, can you talk to us a little bit about how you've been able to reflect, tweak, and improve, and not just scrap everything and jump to the next opportunity?
Okay, so yeah, 100%. And I'm so glad I did that as well. But I mean, when I first started out, you just sort of think like, okay, what can I do? How can I draw people in? What challenge do I want to give people? And in the beginning, when we started out with the challenge, I wanted to give everybody like a challenge every day, but it didn't really flow. It was just separate challenges that didn't really create a storyline and guide people towards, really building their fitness program and working toward their goals. Yes, every separate entity of that challenge helped towards achieving their fitness goals more and was a valuable lesson, but it didn't really match up and sync and it didn't flow as nicely as the challenge does now. And I think Michelle really helped me see that, when you're in your own flow and when you're thinking of things, you get so many ideas of what you think that people need and what you think they should be doing, that a lot of the time it's way more than that they can actually accomplish. And that's because you might be at a different level than your clientele is or that your audience is. So you automatically can already start thinking that, but that's too easy for them. When in fact, it's probably not. And I got that feedback in the beginning that one of the ladies was like, yeah, it felt like a lot. And in my brain, I was like, oh, how? Because it doesn't seem like that much to me. But that's because I'm the professional. Really honing in on what my audience needed from me and how I could coach them more smoothly towards making the right next step. And I think we just kept tweaking on that and kept changing. So we changed up the storyline, changed up how we could offer it to them. And because people have such busy lives, you don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. And you want to give them like the valuable stuff as soon as possible. And I love to talk around and up and down and all over the place because I get carried away. So sometimes I lose track of my own story. So it was really good to outline, what I needed to speak to, how I needed to get my clients there. I'm really great at coaching someone when they're in front of me, because then I can really hone in on that person, which I'm more able to do in my membership. But when I'm doing this challenge, I have such a short amount of time that I need to speak to everybody. And that's when the messaging really helped to get clear on what I needed to provide them and how I could guide them toward that goal. And yeah, I think just tweaking that has gotten the challenge clearer and better. And I'm so glad we're just sticking with it. And I think every time I do it and tweak it and change it, it would just become a better version of what I started with. So I think it's so much better because if you keep starting new, you'll keep starting at that starting point. So it will just stay that like rough draft and not that finalized product, which you want to end up with, where it becomes like this amazing thing that you start, doing. And yeah, I think that was really, really valuable.
I think that with my methodology and approach is really like simplify, clarify, amplify. And so in the beginning, when Manouk and I had first started talking, she kind of was going in a lot of different directions, and the challenge wasn't super specific. It gave too many things. It kind of overcomplicated. And then she had also created a freebie and an opt-in, and the content that was in the challenge was completely and totally different and separate. And so again, as marketers, we often think that we have to over deliver and we have to over teach and over coach up front, when really what people are looking for is simplification. And so how can we make it incredibly simple? How can we make it really accessible? And how can we make it so that that audience member, that prospective client, that lead is coming in and feeling totally cared for, feeling like they understand everything that's been given to them, and that they can start to take some little action right away so they get those quick wins. So really, I think simplifying in the beginning was very helpful, and then kind of clarifying. I know that one of the things that we worked on was helping you facilitate even just slides and an outline, because I had asked Manouk, like, well, what do you talk about in the challenge? And she's like, oh, well, I just talk, I just coach. And I'm like, okay, well, is there something I can look at? And she didn't have anything. And so I'm like, okay, take whatever's in your brain, get it onto a page, and that way we can actually talk about how we can clarify that messaging and clarify what it is that you're teaching and coaching, so that one, your prospective lead, the person who's moving through that opt-in, that challenge, is actually getting a clear, identifiable, and easy to understand direction, as opposed to, yes, there's all this great information that you can talk about and share, but if it doesn't land, and if that person walks away feeling like, okay, well, that was really great, but I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do, then the communication hasn't happened. The teaching, the coaching, it actually hasn't happened if that person's not able to implement and walk away. So clarifying. And then now I feel like you're really in a stage of amplifying. So how can you get more people to opt in? How can you work on the emails, which I know is part of the process? And how can you really facilitate the social media side of things? So thank you for sharing that breakdown. Is there anything that you feel like you've come up with along the way that has felt like, oh my gosh, like this is just too much? Like you figured out the tech, you can totally do that. But are there any like doubts or frustrations or insecurities that kind of have come up for you during this launching process, during the challenge building, during, the first 6 months of this year as we've kind of been working through this process?
Reaching people is always, I think, the harder part. The frustrating thing, I think, for me is that I know I am so capable, and I know that I am a good coach, and I know that I know what I'm talking about, and I know I can transform so many women's lives. I know that. And I don't want to sound cocky saying that, but you just know, because I've lived it. And I think if I had all this information when I started out on my fitness journey, it would have really helped me out a lot. So it's the difficulty, I think, for me, because it's, transformed so quickly, and I can see how honing in on the message and how delivering in a better way is so valuable and so great that I managed to do that. You just now want to get it to as many people as possible. And the only thing that I will say is that I sometimes worry that I can't get it out there to as many people. And another thing that I have realized that I wanted to add in is that, when we're on camera and we're trying to do something, we want to do it so well and we want to do it so right that you kind of lose track of your authenticity because you just start following like a script. And definitely me, because I want to do it correctly. I want to deliver it so well. I want to make sure that I don't miss out on anything, that I start sort of like speaking. I don't know if it's robotically, but like my camera persona turns on. And to the point that I was recording like a video, and even my boyfriend came to me and he's like, babe, you're so great when you're just explaining things. You do so well. But I hear it as soon as you turn on that camera, this different persona comes on. And it's like, don't do that, because you hit people more when you're just you. Like, people feel it. And I know that, but that's something that's difficult sometimes. So that's something that I'm really honing in on and working on. And I try to think, okay, how would I speak to my best friend? How would I speak to my client? Yeah, how would I speak to someone next to me right now if I was talking about this topic? And that's how I really try to tackle that. And then I think of course, as an entrepreneur, I don't know, we all feel that one day I feel like I'm a boss babe and I'm going to rule the world. And the next day I'm like, oh no, this is never happening. This is never going to work out. What am I doing? A lot of the time it has nothing to do with my know-how, but more how I can reach people. I think that's my biggest struggle. And especially with social media, the growth of that and looking at others. And even though I know I shouldn't be comparing myself, that is something that I struggle with as well. Like, how are they doing that? But I just keep like in fitness, like in everything else, I just stay consistent, keep doing it. And I know it will pay off. It already has, but in the way that I want it to.
Well, I just admire your consistency so much because you just follow through. Like, you walk your talk and you show up and you do it. And I know that it's challenging, as it is for all of us, in terms of some of those self-doubts and difficulties that come up, not necessarily in how you are as an expert and practitioner, because I think that's so true for a lot of folks who are experts in their field and in their niche and in their industry. They're like, yeah, put me in for teaching and coaching and I can speak and I do all these things, but then get me in front of a camera and I have no idea what to do with myself. And so I think there's a lot for us to work on when it comes to translating our authenticity and our expertise, our authority, to being online, social media, filming this podcast. Like, everything is a part of it, and how we can kind of break down that barrier, because you're right. Once we feel like we turn it on, it creates a disconnect and a divide between the person that we're trying to reach and connect with. So how can we do that with a little bit more intention and a little bit more thoughtfulness? And for me, it's been definitely a big journey of like uncovering who I am as an individual and being okay, feeling vulnerable enough for people to see me in who I am. And so I think that's something that we're consistently working on and working toward, is showing up in that way. So I admire you. I love what you're doing. So if someone is interested in finding more about you, the program, your membership, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at Manouk Vink. That's my Instagram. It's just my name, nice and simple. And then my website, where you can find almost everything that I offer, is www.nouksfitness.com. So Nouks is spelt like the last part of my name, Nouks, and then fitness.com. And then I have my free opt-in for my challenge. If you want to join the 5-part challenge and get access to all 5 parts of the coaching, it's a little more complicated. It's academy.nouksfitness.com/join challenge.
We'll link all of that up in the show notes so you can click through. But if you want to find Manouk, please do so on Instagram. Check out the membership, check out the program, and definitely do that challenge, because it's incredibly helpful. It's information that maybe even if you know it, you're not implementing it. So definitely transformational there. Well, Manouk, thank you so much for joining us today. That was so lovely. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Find the link in the show notes to join us in the Her First Collective, a free Facebook group to discuss the podcast, ask questions of our guest experts, and network with a group of female entrepreneurs who value collaboration over competition.
Please subscribe, share, leave a review, and be sure to catch our next episode. What is one thing you can do today to prioritize you in business and life?